Hello, dear learners. Welcome back to our channel where English learning becomes an unforgettable adventure. Today we begin the incredible life story of one of the greatest leaders in history, Nelson Mandela. This is not just a story. It is a journey of hope, courage, and determination. Listening to this story will help you improve your English vocabulary, pronunciation, and listening skills. But more than that, it will inspire you to dream big and never give up, no matter how hard life gets. Nelson Mandela was born on July 18, 1918, in a small, quiet village called Mvizo in the Eastern Cape of South Africa. His birth name was Relila Mandela, which in the Xhosa language means pulling the branch of a tree. Some people also say it means troublemaker, a name that would later reflect his boldness in challenging injustice. He was born into the Thembu royal family, a tribe known for its rich history and culture. His father, Gadla Henry Mfakeni-Iswa, was a respected chief and advisor to the Tambo king. Although Mandela's family was not wealthy, they were deeply respected in the community. His mother, Noan Glan Fanny, was a devout Christian who taught him the importance of kindness, humility, and faith. Mandela's childhood was simple but filled with joy. He lived in a hut made of mud and straw, surrounded by open fields and rolling hills. There was no electricity, no running water, and no modern luxuries, but Mandela felt free and happy. As a young boy, he loved to run barefoot in the fields, herd cattle, and swim in the streams. He played traditional Xhosa games with his friends and listened to elders tell stories around the fire at night. These stories were often about brave warriors and great leaders. They ignited a spark in young Mandela's heart. One day, his father told him, "A real leader is not someone who wants power for himself, but someone who serves his people." These words stayed with Mandela throughout his life. When Mandela was only 9 years old, tragedy struck. His father fell ill and passed away. This was a devastating loss of the young boy, but also marked a turning point in his life. After his father's death, Mandela's mother took him to live with Chief John Jintaba Dalinjibo, a royal leader of the Thembu people. Chief John Jintaba welcomed Mandela into his home as if he were his own son. For the first time, Mandela saw life beyond his small village. He lived in the chief's palace, where he observed meetings and learned about leadership, tradition, and responsibility. Mandela began attending a local Methodist school at the age of 7. It was here that his teacher, Miss Mdingane, gave him the name Nelson, as was a custom for African children to be given English names in schools. Although Mandela did not understand why he needed a new name, he accepted it and focused on his studies. He quickly became a diligent student, curious about everything he learned. He loved English literature, geography, and history, especially stories of African heroes who fought against colonial rule. Mandela often said, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." This belief drove him to study harder and dream bigger. As Mandela grew older, he became more aware of the inequalities around him. South Africa was ruled by the system of apartheid, which kept black and white people separated in every part of life. Black people were not allowed to vote, own land, or live in the same neighborhoods as white people. Mandela could see the unfairness everywhere. At the age of 16, Mandela participated in a traditional Xhosa ceremony, where boys became men. During the ceremony, elders spoke about the responsibilities of manhood, but they also shared their sadness about the state of their people under apartheid. Mandela felt a deep sense of duty to fight for justice and equality. When Mandela was 19 years old, Chief John Jintaba arranged a marriage for him, but Mandela had other dreams. He wanted to continue his education and make his own choices, so he made a bold decision. He ran away to the bustling city of Johannesburg. In Johannesburg, Mandela saw a completely different world. The city was vibrant, but full of challenges. Black people worked hard for very little pay and lived in poor conditions, while white people enjoyed all the wealth and privilege. Mandela worked as a night watchman at a gold mine while continuing his education. He lived in a small, crowded room and often went hungry, but he never gave up. He believed that education would open doors to a better future. Mandela eventually enrolled at the University of Witwatersrand, where he studied law. He was one of the few black students at the university and faced discrimination, but this only made him stronger. During this time, Mandela joined the African National Congress, ANC, a political organization fighting for the rights of black South Africans. He attended secret meetings, where he listened to passionate speeches and shared his ideas for a fairer South Africa. Mandela dreamed of South Africa where everyone, regardless of race, could live together in peace and equality. He wanted to create a country where children could play together without fear, where families could build their futures, and where justice would prevail. This dream became the driving force of his life. Mandela's work with the African National Congress, ANC, became more serious as he grew older. He realized that education alone was not enough. The black people of South Africa were being treated unfairly every day. They were denied land, jobs, and freedom. They were punished for speaking up and living ordinary lives. Mandela knew something had to change, and he wanted to be part of that change. He joined the ANC Youth League, a group of young leaders determined to fight apartheid in new and powerful ways. The Youth League focused on mobilizing young people to protest against the government. Mandela gave speeches about justice, equality, and the importance of taking action. People admired his courage. His words inspired hope and bravery in those who listened. One of his famous lines was, "It always seems impossible until it's done." During this time, Mandela met a kind and intelligent woman named Evelyn Mays. Evelyn was a nurse, and she shared Mandela's dream of a better South Africa. They married in 1944 and started a family. Mandela was a loving husband and father, but his role as a leader often kept him away from home. He had to balance family responsibilities with the struggle for freedom. He once said, "There is no passion to be found in settling for a life that is less than the one you are capable of living." In 1948, the South African government introduced new apartheid laws. These laws made life even harder for black people. They decided where black people could live, work, and even whom they could marry. The laws were unfair, cruel, and designed to keep black people powerless. Mandela and his colleagues in the ANC knew that action was needed. Mandela helped organize peaceful protests, strikes, and marches. Inspired by the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi, he believed in nonviolent resistance. Thousands of people joined the movement, risking their jobs, homes, and sometimes their lives. But the government responded with violence. Protesters were beaten, arrested, and sometimes killed. Mandela himself was arrested multiple times, but he refused to give up. He said, "Courage is not the absence of fear. It is inspiring others to move beyond it." Despite the dangers, Mandela continued his work. In 1952, he achieved one of his biggest dreams. He became a lawyer, together with his friend Oliver Tambo. He opened the first black law firm in South Africa. The firm provided free or low-cost legal help to black South Africans who were victims of apartheid. Mandela spent his days in courtrooms defending people who were treated unfairly. At night, he worked with the ANC to plan the next steps in the fight for freedom. In 1960, a tragic event changed Mandela's life forever. During a peaceful protest in the town of Sharpeville, police opened fire on the crowd. 69 people were killed, and hundreds more were injured. This massacre shocked the world and showed Mandela that peaceful protests alone might not be enough. The government responded by banning the ANC, forcing Mandela and other leaders to go underground. They formed a secret armed group called Umkhonto we Sizwe, which means Spear of the Nation. Mandela made it clear that their goal was not to harm people, but to sabotage government structures that supported apartheid. During this time, Mandela became a wanted man. He traveled across South Africa in disguise, organizing protests and recruiting people to the struggle. He also traveled to other countries to gain international support. Mandela became known as the Black Pimpernel because he was so skilled at avoiding capture. But his life was full of danger. He could not see his family, and every day could have been his last as a free man. In 1962, Mandela was arrested and charged with sabotage, treason, and attempting to overthrow the government. He used his trial as a platform to speak out against apartheid. In his famous speech, he said, "I have fought against white domination, and I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an ideal which I hope to live for and to achieve. But if needs be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die." Mandela was sentenced to life imprisonment and sent to Robben Island, a bleak prison off the coast of Cape Town. Life in prison was harsh. Mandela was forced to do hard labor in a limestone quarry. He lived in a tiny cell with no bed and only a thin mat on the floor. The guards were cruel, and Mandela was allowed only one visitor and one letter every 6 months. But Mandela refused to be broken. He used his time in prison to study, reflect, and plan. He learned the Afrikaans language to better understand his enemies. He also taught younger prisoners about leadership, courage, and the importance of staying hopeful. Mandela once said, "Asterisk, I am fundamentally an optimist. Whether that comes from nature or nurture, I cannot say. Part of being optimistic is keeping one's head pointed toward the sun." As the years passed, Mandela became more than just a prisoner. He became a symbol of hope for millions of people around the world. Inside South Africa, black communities faced constant oppression, but Mandela's courage inspired them to continue the fight. Outside South Africa, protests against apartheid grew stronger. World leaders, organizations, and ordinary people called for Mandela's release. His name became famous everywhere. Life on Robben Island was extremely harsh. Mandela woke up early every morning for hard labor in the limestone quarry. The work was exhausting and dangerous. Guards shouted insults, tried to humiliate him, and imposed strict rules. But Mandela remained dignified, patient, and determined. He never let his spirit be crushed. Even in prison, Mandela continued his education. He studied law, politics, and world history. He read books about leaders, revolutions, and freedom movements. He also taught younger prisoners to stay strong and hopeful. Mandela believed that knowledge was power. He often said, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." Mandela also learned the Afrikaans language to better understand his captors. By knowing the language, he could communicate more effectively, anticipate decisions, and negotiate when possible. This small step helped him turn adversity into strength. During his imprisonment, Mandela wrote letters, reflected on strategies for the future, and planned for a free South Africa. He realized that true victory would not come from revenge, but from forgiveness and reconciliation. He often reminded himself and others that courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. Meanwhile, the world outside Mandela's cell was awakening to the injustice of apartheid. Countries imposed sanctions on South Africa, refusing to trade or cooperate with the oppressive government. International campaigns called for Mandela's freedom. People chanted, "Free Nelson Mandela." His name appeared on banners in schools, at protests, and in songs. Famous musicians like Stevie Wonder and Bob Marley dedicated songs to him. Inside prison, Mandela was isolated but not defeated. He spent 27 long years behind bars, most of them on Robben Island. Every day was a test of his patience, willpower, and faith in justice. He endured cold, hunger, and harsh treatment. Guards tried to humiliate him. Work was grueling. Communication with family was limited. But Mandela remained hopeful, resilient, and strategic. His imprisonment became a symbol of the global struggle against injustice. People across the world began to understand that apartheid was not just a South African problem. It was a human problem. Mandela's dignity, courage, and unwavering belief in equality inspired millions of people everywhere. Even in prison, Mandela remained politically active. He secretly communicated with ANC leaders and negotiated with the apartheid government. He understood that a peaceful solution was essential. He often said that South Africa needed unity, not revenge, to survive and prosper. Mandela's optimism never wavered. He believed in a better future, even when hope seemed impossible. He said, "I am fundamentally an optimist. Part of being optimistic is keeping one's head pointed toward the sun, one's feet moving forward." These words became a guiding principle for him and for everyone fighting for justice. Robben Island was intended to break Mandela's spirit, but instead it strengthened him. He became a teacher, mentor, and strategist to younger prisoners. He shared lessons on courage, patience, and leadership. He reminded everyone that freedom was worth fighting for. By the 1980s, Mandela had become a global symbol of resistance. Countries and organizations around the world put pressure on the South African government to end apartheid and release him. International campaigns, boycotts, and protests kept the fight alive. The world watched closely, and Mandela's reputation grew beyond borders. In prison, Mandela never lost sight of his dream. He dreamed of South Africa, where people of all races could live together in peace and equality. He envisioned a nation where children could play together without fear, where families could live safely, and where justice would prevail. Even though Mandela was confined to a tiny cell, his impact stretched worldwide. He had become more than a man. He had become a symbol of hope, courage, and the power of forgiveness. People chanted his name at protests, sang songs for him, and wrote letters demanding his release. Mandela's imprisonment showed the world that one person's struggle can inspire millions. Mandela once said, "I realized that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it." Every day on Robben Island, he proved this truth. He faced hunger, abuse, and isolation, but he never gave up. He kept dreaming of a free South Africa and worked tirelessly, even behind bars, to prepare for the day when the fight would continue outside prison walls. The years on Robben Island shaped Mandela's character. He learned patience, perseverance, and the importance of strategic thinking. He knew that winning the fight for freedom required discipline, education, and moral strength. He also realized that revenge would destroy the nation, while forgiveness could build it. Mandela became a global icon while still imprisoned. Leaders, activists, and ordinary people everywhere looked up to him. He represented the struggle for freedom, equality, and human dignity. His message was clear. No matter how powerful oppression seems, justice and hope will eventually prevail. Even in the harshest conditions, Mandela kept his spirit alive. He continued to teach, learn, and plan. His cell became a place of education and inspiration, not despair. Mandela's life in prison showed the world that true leadership comes from strength of character, not from power or position. Finally, after 27 years, the pressure on the South African government became impossible to ignore. The world demanded change. Protests, strikes, and international sanctions made apartheid increasingly unsustainable. Mandela's release was becoming inevitable. On February 11, 1990, the world watched in awe as Nelson Mandela walked out of prison. He was 71 years old, his hair gray, but his spirit unbroken. His first words were, "I stand here before you not as a prophet, but as a humble servant of you, the people. Today, the time for healing of wounds has come. The time to build is upon us." The streets erupted in celebration. People danced, cried, and cheered. Mandela's release was not just his freedom. It was the first step toward a free South Africa. Mandela had endured decades of suffering, isolation, and injustice, but he emerged ready to lead his country with courage and forgiveness. His journey showed that even in the darkest moments, hope and perseverance could overcome fear and oppression. After 27 years in prison, Nelson Mandela stepped into the sunlight of freedom, not as a man broken by suffering, but as a leader ready to guide his country toward justice and unity. The world watched in awe as Mandela walked out of Robben Island on February 11, 1990. He was 71 years old, his hair gray, but his spirit unbroken. His first words were clear. "I stand here before you not as a prophet, but as a humble servant of you, the people. Today, the time for healing of wounds has come. The time to build is upon us." Mandela's release sparked joy and hope across South Africa. Streets filled with people dancing, crying, and cheering. His freedom was not just a personal victory. It symbolized the beginning of a new era for a country torn apart by decades of racial injustice and hatred. Mandela faced a difficult question. How could South Africa heal after so much pain? Many people wanted revenge for the suffering caused by apartheid. Mandela knew that revenge would only divide the nation further. Instead, he preached forgiveness and reconciliation. He believed that the country could only move forward if people chose peace over hatred. He reached out to white South Africans, the very people who had oppressed him and his people. He worked closely with government officials, community leaders, and activists to build trust and unity. Mandela understood that leadership was not about power, but about serving the people and uniting them. In 1994, history was made. For the first time, all South Africans, regardless of race, were allowed to vote in a democratic election. People stood in long lines, some for hours, to cast their votes. On April 27, 1994, Nelson Mandela was elected the first black president of South Africa. His inauguration was a moment of pure hope. Leaders from around the world attended, and millions celebrated across South Africa. Mandela's speech that day was inspiring and powerful. He promised, "Never, never, and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another." As president, Mandela focused on healing the nation. He wanted to ensure that all people, black and white, Indian and colored, could live together in peace and equality. One of his most famous acts of reconciliation was during the 1995 Rugby World Cup. Rugby had been seen as a sport for white South Africans, but Mandela supported the Springboks, the national team, wearing their jersey and standing alongside them. This simple act sent a powerful message. Unity is possible. Mandela showed that forgiveness and collaboration could bring people together, even after decades of hatred. This moment was later immortalized in the movie Invictus, named after a poem Mandela loved that ended with the lines, "I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul." Mandela's leadership style was humble, inclusive, and inspiring. He understood that true leadership means knowing when to step down. After serving one term as president, Mandela chose not to seek re-election in 1999. He proved that a great leader knows when to let go of power and allow others to continue to work. Even after leaving the presidency, Mandela continued to serve the world. He traveled extensively, meeting leaders, inspiring youth, and advocating for peace, education, and equality. He fought against poverty, HIV, AIDS, and social injustice, showing that leadership is a lifelong responsibility. Mandela's actions taught the world important lessons about forgiveness and resilience. He chose to build bridges instead of walls, to heal rather than hate. He believed that every person could contribute to a better society through small acts of kindness, courage, and justice. Through his leadership, Mandela helped South Africa avoid a civil war. He encouraged the creation of a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, where people could confess crimes committed during apartheid and seek forgiveness. This bold move helped the nation face its painful past while building a foundation for a united future. Mandela's presidency and actions after release showed that true greatness comes from service, not power. He taught the world that strength is shown through patience, empathy, and courage, not violence or control. During this period, Mandela also focused on education and opportunity for young people. He knew that a country's future depended on its youth. He encouraged programs to improve schools, create jobs, and inspire leadership. Mandela believed that every child deserved a chance to succeed, no matter their background. Even after all he had endured, Mandela never lost hope or optimism. He once said, "The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall." These words reflected his life philosophy. Every challenge, every setback, and every obstacle was an opportunity to learn, grow, and continue moving forward. Mandela showed the world that one person's courage can inspire millions, and that forgiveness can be stronger than hate. Mandela's story during these years was about more than politics. It was about humanity, empathy, and moral courage. He reminded everyone that peace and unity are choices, and that healing is always possible, even after decades of oppression. His life became a living lesson for all. No matter how hard life gets, no matter how much injustice exists, hope, patience, and determination can change the world. Mandela proved that true leadership is about inspiring others to see their potential and work together to build a better future. After serving one term as president, Nelson Mandela stepped down in 1999, showing the world that true leaders know when to let go of power. But even after leaving office, Mandela's work was far from over. He continued to travel the world, meet leaders, inspire youth, and advocate for causes close to his heart, including peace, education, equality, and the fight against poverty and HIV/AIDS. Mandela believed that leadership was not limited to a title or position. It was about using one's influence and voice to make a positive impact on the world. Even after decades of struggle and imprisonment, he remained humble, compassionate, and hopeful. He reminded people everywhere that change is possible when we refuse to give up. Throughout his later years, Mandela worked to promote reconciliation and unity, not just in South Africa, but across the globe. He met with leaders of different nations, spoke at conferences, and encouraged communities to overcome division and hatred. His message was simple. We can choose peace, forgiveness, and hope even when the past has been full of pain. Mandela's dedication to education never wavered. He knew that the future of any nation depended on empowering young people. He encouraged programs to improve schools, create opportunities for learning, and support youth leadership. Mandela believed that every child deserved a chance to succeed, regardless of their background. Even in his final years, Mandela remained a symbol of courage, perseverance, and forgiveness. He showed that no matter the difficulties, one could stand strong in the face of adversity and work for the greater good. His life was a reminder that individual actions matter, and that every person has the power to make a difference. On December 5th, 2013, Nelson Mandela passed away at the age of 95. The world mourned the loss of a giant, a man who had endured unimaginable hardships, yet emerged as a beacon of hope and humanity. Millions of people attended his memorial, including world leaders, celebrities, and ordinary citizens whose lives he had touched. His legacy was felt not just in South Africa, but in every corner of the globe. Mandela's life teaches us many lessons. He showed that hope and perseverance can overcome even the darkest moments. Despite spending 27 years in prison, he never gave up on his dream of a free and equal South Africa. Forgiveness is stronger than revenge. Mandela chose to unite his country rather than seek vengeance against those who had oppressed him. Education is a powerful weapon. Mandela believed learning could change the world, and he spent his life encouraging knowledge and growth. Every individual can make a difference. Mandela's life proved that one person's courage and determination can inspire millions and bring about real change. Mandela's journey was not easy. There were many times when he could have given up. There were moments when life seemed impossible. But he kept moving forward, driven by his vision of a better, fairer world. He fought not only for himself but for future generations, for his children, grandchildren, and all the children of South Africa. He once said, "I never lose. I either win or learn." These words reflect his resilience and wisdom. Every challenge, every setback, every mistake was an opportunity to learn, grow, and become stronger. Mandela showed that failure is not the end of the road, but a step toward success. Even for those of us who are not famous or powerful, Mandela's life reminds us that we can all be leaders. Every act of kindness, every stand for justice, and every moment we help others matters. We can make a difference in our families, communities, and beyond. Mandela's life is a story for everyone. It shows that no matter how hard life gets, we have the strength to keep moving forward. When challenges come, we can remember Mandela's example. A man who faced immense suffering yet chose hope, love, and perseverance. Mandela's impact was not just about politics. It was about humanity, moral courage, and the power of forgiveness. He taught the world that even in the darkest moments, we can choose the light. His life proves that one person's determination, patience, and commitment can change the course of history. Through Mandela's journey, we learn that dreams are worth fighting for. Even when the path is hard, persistence leads to change. Forgiveness builds bridges. Healing comes when we let go of anger and choose unity. Every challenge is an opportunity. Life's obstacles are lessons that make us stronger. Leadership is service. True leaders work for the good of others, not themselves. Nelson Mandela's legacy lives on in every person who chooses hope over despair, forgiveness over hate, and action over fear. His story reminds us that we have the power to overcome any challenge and make the world a better place. As Mandela said, "The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall." This is the ultimate lesson of his life. Every fall is a chance to rise. Every struggle is a step toward a brighter future. Mandela's journey was not just about changing South Africa. It was about changing the world. He inspired millions, and his message will continue to inspire future generations. His life shows us that hope, love, and determination can triumph over hatred, fear, and injustice. So take his story to heart. Remember that you have the strength to overcome any obstacle. No matter how impossible life seems, you can keep moving forward. You can make a difference, just like Nelson Mandela. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey through the life of Nelson Mandela. Share his story, keep his lessons alive, and always remember, one person can change the world.